In this video, I'm going to be taking you through how to run ads on a small budget. What's going on, everyone? My name is Gaetan. I've been doing e-commerce and marketing for over 10 years, and the purpose of these videos is to share my knowledge with you and educate you on how to run ads and do commerce. First of all, and I want to lead with this, it's very cool on social media to say, hey, running ads takes at least 100 euros per day or at least $100 per day. But the truth is that you can work with less, and I'm going to be showing you exactly how you do so. And that's the exact way that I started out before I ran into the big budgets. So yes, it's more easy and it's more efficient if you run the high budgets, but there are many businesses out there who just can't afford to do high budgets ads in the beginning, and they have to grow towards that. So what I did here is I listed a couple of different tiers, right? Because these different tiers require a certain different approach that we will go through during this video and show you at the end the success formula once you go through all these different concepts that I've listed for you. So the first tier, I would say, is a daily budget from $0 to $30, which amounts roughly to about $900 per month. Next tier is 30 to 90. And then the last tier is 90 to 500. And then everything 500 plus just follows the same concept after that. And you have just more liberty, more pacing, more speed. And I'm going to go through the details at the end of the video because there's a couple of different concepts that you need to understand why we make the decisions that we do and why I'm going to go through these different parameters of how to run these ads, because that'll allow you to apply these concepts to your specific situation and your specific budget, which will also help you to make informed decisions, right? I always preach for understanding what we're trying to teach here rather than just copying, because if you copy and you run into a situation, which will definitely happen, and you don't know the answer because you don't understand the concept, you're just lost, right? So there's a couple of different concepts that I wanted to go through first before diving into specifics. One of the concepts is money or time, right? You can fix either one with the other. If you don't have time, you're going to need a lot of money. If you don't have money, you're going to need a lot of time. So that's a very different concept. So that's a very, important concept that I always explain to the customer. Well, like, yes, you can do less budget, but it's going to take more time, or you can speed up the time if you don't have any, or you want to see results quickly, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Now, if you're running in the small budgets, it's going to take, therefore, a lot of time, right? And that's also good because in the beginning, if you're dealing with small budgets, chances are you're just starting out, and chances are you're going to have a bit of a learning curve before you're up to speed on how to run the account. So taking time is not a thing. Now, to show you this and how this works, I made two examples, right? Say you have a daily budget of $500, right? $500 per day. You have a CPA, so a cost per acquisition. Acquiring a new customer costs you $25. So you can do 20 conversions if your CPA is good. You can do 20 conversions per day, which is nice, which is good data, right? If you have your budget $50, you have the same CPA, your CPA doesn't care about how low or how big your budget is, you can only do 2 conversions per day, which is still all right and which is going to allow you to scale, but it's a very different data set because the outcome that you want to work for is 50 or at least 30 conversions per month. So you already feel where I'm going with this, right? If you have 20 conversions per day, you're going to be able to optimize a lot more quickly, right? If you have like your graph, say CPA, and you have time, your CPA is going to start off high, right? Because your campaigns and Zuck is still looking for who the audience is and where he can sell his ad space the best to get the best result. Because believe it or not, even though it might not always seem like that, Zuck has the best intentions for your brand because he knows if you get more results, you're going to spend more, which means more revenue for our dear friend Zuck. So more private yacht parties for him, which is a good thing, I assume, right? So the more data that you have, the quicker our dear friend Zuck will find who your audience is and will allow you to sell products to. So your CPA is going to go down a lot quicker while your conversions are trending up a lot faster as well, because your conversion rate is going to rise, your CPA is going to lower, and overall it's going to be a much funner time, right? You're not going to have like angry emails in your inbox. It's going to be a very fun time. On the contrary, and this is really like where the contrast is between what the customer, like there's a really big contradiction or juxtaposition for the customer, like the money that they spend versus the results that they get. Contrary to what they believe, the more they invest upfront in the beginning, the better their results are going to be, instead of like holding out and, hey, I'm going to put more money in it once I've seen some results, is not how it works, right? Because if you have to have more time means money. If you have your time here, right, and you have your CPA here, whatever, and you're going to need more time, you're just going to spend more for worse results instead of having like this big drop off. So that's a concept that you need to understand yourself, and you also need to communicate to your as soon as possible. Next concept here, CPA. Cost per acquisition is such an important metric. I've taken the same example here, $500 budget, 25 CPA, 20 conversions, just to have it clear and have you along with the story as I'm building it up, right? But imagine for now you have like $50 budget, which is fairly low, but it's doable, right? And you have $25 as a CPA. So you're doing 2 conversions, and the people who are paying good attention are going to leave a like on this video, but also notice that this will work out to about 60 conversions per month, which will allow you to scale. So that's perfectly brilliant. But imagine now for a second that we go down, right? Still have the $500 budget, but CPA, because this is a higher value product or it has a longer sales cycle that can happen, has a CPA of 50. Now, this is not very exotic, right? This is not something that will happen once every blue moon. This happens often that you have a CPA of 50, right? You just have to weigh your AOV, so your average order value, against it, make sure that there's enough profit. But there are a lot of niches where you have a $50 CPA, right? You're going to get 10 conversions. 10 conversions per day is still 300 per month. Doing dandy, doing really great. Now, if you have a $50 budget and a $50 CPA, you could, in theory, do 1 conversion per day, which will still get you 30 conversions. 30 conversions is already not 50. So you're not like in the green zone, you're more like in the orange zone of when it comes to optimizations. But if you're only doing this, the bare minimum, right, conversions per day, chances are there are going to be days, a lot of days, where you're not going to get conversions because you can't source enough people, right? The benchmark would say that your ad spend needs to be about 2 to 3 times your CPA at minimum to accurately and deliberately test audiences and creatives. So in theory, you should be running here with at least $100 to $150. And this is like the most awkward almost situation, if you will, because it's very, you can't fundamentally change the CPA. If the CPA is around $50 for your niche and for your product, that's not something that you can fundamentally change, right? You can optimize for it. You might be able to get it down to like 45, 42. That's all doable. But in the beginning, chances are that you're going to go above the benchmark. You're going to have weeks where it's 64. You're going to have weeks where it's 80. It's like completely blowing up. And you can't get it down to like 25. It's just what the product and category and the service of that niche dictates for a large part, right? You could have like one killer creative that sometimes halves the CPA, but it's going to be very hard to maintain like half of the CPA if you know what your benchmark, right? And this is an awkward position because you can't really, if the client doesn't have money, you can't force him to pay, right? You can't empty his bank account for him in order to establish like decent conversions for the CPA. So be aware of this and flag this to the customer. Tell them, hey, look, I've seen this product, I've seen this niche before. The CPA, do some research, right? Push it into Claude, ask around on Reddit, for example. I've seen the CPA is 50. Your daily budget presumably is $50. This is not going to work, right? We're going to need more budget, or we're going to have to look for like cheaper alternatives to drive down the CPA, or we're going to have like an added value. Like we could offer a 1+1, which may drive down the CPA, but we're going to have to do something, right? Just running ads at a daily budget of lower than 2 to 3 times CPA, it's going to be very difficult. And then as a last concept, you have the term pacing. Pacing is really important when it comes to 2 different factors of your ads. Number 1, scaling, and then number 2, your creatives. They are both going to be influenced by your budget, and it's also something that you need to know before starting your advertising on a small account, right? So let's first talk about scaling. Scaling means increasing your budgets, your daily budgets, and then building out the account. As you get more budget, you're able to expand on your campaigns, you're able to expand on your audiences, and you're able to expand on your creatives. So scaling your account is like building out the campaign and then increasing your ad spend. Ad spend rules dictate that you can increase safely. And although Meta says otherwise and Google says otherwise, there's a lot of people claiming and holding on to the fact, me included, that raising 15 to 25% is healthy. Doubling your budget sometimes cracks the account, which you don't want. Right? So increasing 15 to 25% on each go every time you have established that your learnings did not break the account. So mostly this will be like 2-3 days when your ads return to active and they exit the learning phase because they have enough conversions attributed to them. If you are running small budgets, you can already feel where this is going. If you increase 20%, let's say 20, on the $30 budget, you're adding $6, right? Assume you're in a good niche, which has a CPA of 25. Those $6 are not going to do anything, right? That's not even half of acquiring a new customer. So you're going to be having about 1/5 or 1/4, because 4 times 6 is 24. So you're going to acquire 1/4 of a new customer every time you scale, which does nothing for you. So that's like a second pretty awkward position that you leave yourself in if you're doing small budgets. Again, I understand a lot of companies just don't have more budget than this, which is fine, right? But it's something that you have to manage, right? If you're scaling, the scale is going to be immediately noticeable on the money account of the customer. It's not going to be immediately noticeable on the results side of things, right? If you scale 20% on a $200 budget, that's going to make $240, and $240 is more than $25 CPA. So you're gaining a new conversion extra, almost 2 conversions extra just through one sales cycle. So what you would do here is you would scale like 25% just to get that extra conversion in there, and you have 2 new conversions every single day now that you scaled. So you also know when things are breaking, right? Because you're expecting 2 conversions added every single new day, but it's not happening. So obviously something's wrong, right? And you can figure out after 3-4 days that something is wrong, and you can scale back. If you're doing the small budgets, you're not going to notice because you have to take 4 days to get 1 additional conversion, and that's already 4 days past with only 1 data point. So you can't really make good decisions, right? So that's why people saying like small budgets don't work. Yes, they do, but you have to know about this all, because if you're expecting like, hey guys, we scaled, we should have more conversions, the math just doesn't check out. So you need to be able to sense that it'll take more time, right? Another thing is creatives, right? Take into good account that your CPA attribution works on an ad set level and should be working on a creative level, right? You can't run like the gurus love to do on TikTok. You can't run 50 creatives on a $50 budget because every single creative is going to get $1 if it's even spent. More than likely, 2-3 creatives are going to get 80-70% of the ad spend, and then the rest is going to be divided under the other ones, which means that none of those is ever going to leave learning, which means like the account, like there's just no point burning resources into making creatives because you cannot push them all. So your creatives are directly correlated to the amount of budget that you have. So again, to draw this out, $500 ad budget, $25 CPA, which means 20 conversions. So this would be very healthy. You could set up one CBO campaign with different ad sets, and it could look something like this: $100 in the first ad set, which will run you about 4 conversions every single day. A second ad set, also 4 conversions because it has $100, and an ad set should be a concept. So you can load in a concept one here, then a concept here, and then you could have like maybe 3-4 creatives per different ad set. And then you have, for example, this is your winning ad set. So all your winners go into this ad set, and this gets like $300 budget to burn like the most amount of money and get the most results, right? So that could be a very healthy setup. And then you could also keep, for example, here, 20% of your budget, which for this customer is $100. You could make an entirely new ad set for this customer and say like, hey, we're going to test something completely new, knowing that you should be expecting 4 conversions per day. If that's not happening, you're going to have to check back in. If you have this type of budget, it's going to be very difficult, right? I would create maybe 1 campaign here, 1 ad set, and just stock in all your different creatives into 1 ad set. It's not ideal. It's not how it's supposed to work, but it's the only way that I would see this work in like the bigger sense of. So to break this down, I also have an example here. So here you have an account that's doing $800 per day in ad spend. We brought it there. Okay, so this is like the prime example that I wanted to show because they started at $80 per day, right? $80 per day. Now they're at $800 over the course of 3 months, right? It's been 3 months right now. And now that we are scaling at $800 per day, when we add 20%, that's $160 on top. And as you can see, the CPA is around 20. I think when I checked this morning, it was about 19.8. So that's a lot of new conversions trickling into the account. So this is going really fast. But even here, you have certain creatives that are in limited learning. Not a lot of them, but some even don't get enough budget, so we have to slow down our creative here. But here you can see like there's multiple pages of this. This account holds 3,200 ads at the moment, which didn't all come from us, but you can feel like there's a lot of creatives running in this account. They each have their own cost per result, and they each have their own attributed conversions here, right? So most of them have more at least 1 conversion per day. Others don't, and those are the ones which are mostly going bad and going down, right? But here we can make good decisions, right? They have enough data, they have enough amount spent, so we could just say, hey, this ad, this one here that we turned off is running at 50% more CPA than we expect, so we're going to turn it off. Made a slight little mistake there that I have to clean up. So then we have $100 per day, right? Which is also like a decent budget, but they're running 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11 creatives at the moment, and they're all in learning. So as we are scaling this account, we know that we can take things up a notch. But as you can see, we don't have cost per results yet because they're still taking some time with the tracking. So we mostly report on CTR, which is click-through rate, as the conversions are being implemented actually today. So this is like the big difference: 11 creatives versus 84 creatives in the other account, even though like 8 times bigger in a nutshell, right? If you have your first tier of budget, $0 to $30, one campaign CBO, focus on the creatives. Don't do different ad sets you simply don't have the budget for. Just group your creatives together in one ad set. Always exclude purchasers and customers to find new prospective customers. The goal is to scale up your budgets. Marketing metrics look good and steady by 15 to 25%. Then you have your second tier, $30 to $90. Still, it's going to be one campaign CBO, focus on creatives, but here you have the freedom to experiment with different ad sets per concept. I would not do more than 2 to 3 ad sets for this specific campaign budget so that you have $30 per concept. But here you have the freedom to experiment with different ad sets, which will increase your results that you drive. Again, exclude purchases and customers as always. Scale up budgets if marketing metrics are good and steady by 15 to 20%, and try and reach 30 conversions per month or as close to 30 conversions per month. And then last but not least, once you get into the big leagues, $90 to $500, you're going to be able to have 2 campaigns. I would still run CBO. Again, ABO is just for like very exotic examples of accounts, mostly very high value tickets or very long sales cycles. Focus on creatives with an ad set per concept. And here you can go wild, right? You can run 5 to 6 different ad sets, different concepts with 2, 3, 4 creatives within each concept. Focus on rotation and creative workflow. So here you have to watch frequency. Frequency is ticking up. You have to run different ads, and creative workflow, where you can take your winning concepts and recycle them to have more additional winning concepts and winning variations of the winning concept, and then take out all the losers and store somewhere that these are losing concepts so you don't run in and make them again. Exclude purchasers, carts, and customers, but here you can run a separate remarketing campaign, bottom of funnel, as the second campaign, right? So 2 different campaigns, one prospecting, one remarketing, each with their own little ad sets and each with their own little creatives. For remarketing, it's going to be less ad sets simply because it's bottom of the funnel is looking for people that already know about your brand, so you don't have to do the warm up. And the goal again is to scale up budgets if the marketing is good by 15 to 25% and try and reach 100 conversions. Then just keep building out. So that would be my advice if you're running small budgets. If this video was helpful and you're still watching, thank you very much. Consider subscribing, liking, and hopefully see you in the next